Hi, guys. Welcome to our very first Sip Sessions podcast. This is Sean and my wife,
Hey, it's Miranda.
and we just wanted to start a podcast because we felt like we always had a lot to talk about. And, we feel like we talk to each other about a lot of different things. We figured, like, we have all this time on our hand. Why not share it with everybody else? So today is going to be a pretty interesting podcast, I feel like. We're going to talk about how we got to this point, our military background, what it's been like the past year being in the military, the struggles, the benefits, the ups, the downs, things that people might be curious about. And our relationship dynamic changed a lot going to the military. There was an interesting dynamic beforehand, during, now, and I'm sure Miranda has a lot to say about that.
Well, we originally met in high school as sophomores, and we stayed friends along the years. And then when it came close to me getting ready to leave, we started getting a little bit closer, and then one thing led to another, and we started dating 6 months before, probably like 6 months before I actually left. And from that point on, our relationship progressed into us getting married. And then I was leaving. I left May 3rd, and that's when things changed for the better, I'd say.
It was an interesting dynamic, though, because, knowing the fact that she was going to be leaving was always, like, hanging over our relationship. So it was always this idea of, like, we're doing things, but it's, like, not the last time, but it felt like the last time for a long time since she was going to be gone, and we knew the communication was going to be different. Having to talk through letters, and, we're used to FaceTiming and texting each other every day, so we knew it was going to be different. But, yeah, then she finally left. And she can tell you what it was like, being the first one to leave and both of us not having any idea what it was like going to the military.
So, first week of boot camp wasn't terrible. It's a lot of in-processing, a lot of paperwork. Zero night was kind of interesting. You show up in the middle of the night and people are yelling at you and you're confused, you're scared, you're shocked. Mostly, as soon as you get there, you have like a 5-minute call just to like let your family know you're okay. And then you don't really officially get to start writing letters until
About 2 weeks.
Your second week. So that was what I was looking forward to most because I knew that I couldn't talk to anybody. But as soon as we got time to write letters, that's when all the fun started.
That first night when you get there, though, is rough. It's you show up and it's the middle of the night. You've just been on an airplane for hours, and now you're on this bus to the middle of nowhere, and you get off the bus and they're yelling at you, and you're having to carry all your stuff, and you're going through things that you've never been through. And at the same time, we haven't talked in like almost a month at this point. So it was interesting, there was a lot of things I was like, oh, like I wish I could like tell her what it was like when I got there, or like I wish I could like know what it was like when she got there. Like I hope she's okay, like I hope everything's going all right. But it was interesting. But she went through it first. So, when we started sending letters to each other, it made it interesting because she was able to like give me like heads up on like, oh, like first night at BMT is gonna suck, and it's gonna be crazy, and it's gonna be a shock, and you're gonna be like, why the hell did I join the military? And everyone's yelling at you, and you sleep for like 30 minutes the first night, and then you're up for like 3 days straight doing all this BS in processing stuff. And I don't know, it's wild. But when she left, I made it a point to write her a letter every day just so that she knew that, like, I was still thinking about her, and I would personally deliver them to the post office because I was too afraid that putting them in the regular mailbox wasn't going to be good enough. So I would take them to the post office, and I would spray them with my cologne so that she could smell it. And, I tried to make it interesting.
I mean, in regards to the letters, I think people don't really understand how important letters are, because when you're in that environment and you're cut off from the world, letters are everything. I remember the first time I got one of your letters and it had cologne all over it. I like ran to my friends and I was like, oh my gosh, it smells like my husband. And everybody was like, oh my god, it smells so good. And like things, small things like that mean so much when you're in that environment. Like, it's at the end of the day, it's not anything crazy. It's not that hard. It's not that scary. But in that first initial period, like anything from home that you can have, well, first off, they take everything. They take everything that you have that's civilian attire away from you, and they pack it in a storage closet and they lock it. So you have nothing that really is personal or means something. It's just everything is the same. Everyone's on the same level. You're all getting treated the same way. And so things like that, I think the only personal things that really like brought you back to home was your letters and keeping and your phone calls. Phone calls were a huge deal in basic.
I mean, when she was in basic, she was during a time where COVID kind of changed the rules a little bit, so she got a phone call every week. So I got to hear from her every week, and she would sneak a couple texts here and there. You know, when you're not really supposed to text each other.
Let's hope
you're
no
supposed to just yeah. Let's hope no one's listening to us. But she would sneak a couple here and there. When I went, I was only able to call 3 times the whole 8 weeks that I was there, so it was a little different, you know. But I mean, she still made an effort to send me the letters. But hers experience was a little different because she went through like the very last cycle of like COVID. So I mean, and we were also in different sections of like buildings. I was in Disneyland, which is a newer, nicer building. She was in Alcatraz.
And if you're in the military and you're in the Air Force, you know the difference between Disneyland life and Alcatraz life. And we definitely had it a lot harder. Alcatraz is harder, I said.
You think Alcatraz is harder?
It is a lot harder. There's so much debate between where you live. And so if you're in Alcatraz, you know that the buildings, first off, our buildings are from the OG. Everybody that's ever gone through actual things and seen things is in Alcatraz. Everything is old in Alcatraz. We have 40 girls in a dorm sharing 6 showers. Disneyland had so many more showers. You guys had
Disneyland
more water.
had 12 showers for the same amount of people, but half of them never worked. And the girl and boy dorms were all on the same floor, so it was a lot more restricted. We had cameras down every hallway.
We did too. We had guys across the hall from us. We had to literally share showers. Me and Leonzi, shout out to Leonzi. We literally used to share showers, and our dorm got in trouble because they were like, don't share showers because, you know, that's not... They're like, don't share showers because, you know, it goes against hygiene and all these other rules because everything's so strict and basic. And we're like, nah, we want to take long showers. We want to get everything we want to be like extra clean, have time to shave. And so we took that extra measure, and, you know, our dorm chief wasn't too bad. She didn't snitch on us, so I guess it was okay.
I mean, ours was a little different. We had one floor where all the male dorms were at, and then the floor below us was where all the female dorms were at, so we were a lot more separated. But we had things called integrated flights, where we had guys and girls that you would pretty much spend all day in a co-ed type environment, and then you would go back to your dorm and live with 50 of the same gender. So, you know, if you can imagine what living with 50 different guys is like, and 50 different girls, you know, it's an interesting experience, but it teaches you a lot of patience, and it teaches you a lot of like
Teamwork,
because there's a lot of little, like, what were they called? Like your progress checks, or like your,
yeah,
like the RLA, where you had to like keep your living area. clean and stuff, and there were some things like some people didn't know how to fold very nicely, and like they judge you on how well you're able to like fold stuff.
They grade you because at the end of the day, you want to go for, what is it? What is your little ribbon?
I don't remember what the ribbon's called.
It's honor.
Oh, honor grad.
Honor grad. That's what everybody's shooting for. So you
It's
got
like
to
a-
be nearly perfect to walk out with honor grad. You got to get, what is it?
It's a-
Marksman.
You gotta score a certain score on the final multiple choice test.
EOC has to be, I think, 95 or above. Your PT test has to be perfect. You have to just be well-rounded overall.
Yeah, the Air Force BNT is very
Nerdy.
nerdy and points based. We don't do very many exciting
Physical
things.
or anything crazy.
I mean, we do have Beast Week, which was interesting experience in itself. It was different for both of us. Hers, I mean, she can tell you about what it was like when she went through Beast Week.
My class was the last ones to actually get a full week of Beast. So we like drive to the base next to us. It's probably a 10-minute bus ride over, and you're in a whole different environment. You're out, you're in the dirt, you're sleeping in tents, you're basically prepping for what deployment could potentially look like if anything goes wrong. You do a lot of drills, I guess you can say.
Do a lot of BS work too, pulling weeds out of the ground and walking around.
The one thing I wish that we both got to experience was the gas chamber, and
Which
that's
was-
something we didn't get.
Broken when we both went.
It was broken for like the whole summer.
I think it was like 2 cycles after mine that finally got to do it,
Yeah.
which was kind of disappointing. We go through the whole gas chamber training without the actual gas chamber, so putting on the gas mask and all the
Seaburn.
yeah, CBRN is what it's called. It's like chemical warfare training where
Which
you
sucks because we both were in basic when it was the hottest time in Texas.
it's like 110 degrees
People were
every
passing
day.
out. Those were the days.
My beast was a little different. It was only 2 days long, but we only had like an hour advance notice to get everything ready and then run outside and get ready to go. Where she had like a week and they told them what to prepare and stuff, but she
Yeah,
was there for a week and we were only there for 2 days. But like I was talking about earlier with the letters, I already knew that we were going to be going to Beast Week, so I already knew it was coming. I was just more waiting like when they were going to tell us we were going to go. And it also helped a lot that we were able to coordinate through the letters to meet up at church every Sunday, because you know, through the hard times of not being able to talk to each other and see each other, and this whole shock and change of lifestyle and environment, we still managed to meet up with each other every Sunday at Catholic church and just talk about like what that week has been like, because you got to put in perspective that we only would see each other every Sunday. So at the end of every week, she was 3 weeks ahead of me, so she'd be like doing some that I'm like, I can't wait to get to that point. Or like there's a certain point where you first get your uniform and you're wearing running shoes and you look like an idiot, and she was like in full uniform with her Nike boots and looking all professional, and I pulled up in my Nike running shoes and I just looked rough. So it was interesting to see like, you know, the progression throughout BMT and being able to like catch up with each other. And she would hook me up with bags of goodies and cough drops, which in BMT is a big commodity.
Currency.
Because
So
you can
sick.
trade them to do things or not do things that you don't want to do, and you don't really get candy in BMT, so having different flavored cough drops kind of replaces that taste of candy, I would say.
The highlight was the protein bars. We got protein bars every night and taking those back to the dorm. Some of us had peanut butter, but not going to name any names. But those are definitely the highlights. Cough drops were literally the best thing to have. Having your family send you the good ones, which is like, what is it, the Hall's Breezers, I want to say?
Like mixed berry or something like
Those
that.
are so clutch when you need things to be done, when you want your mail to be sent out and you want someone to take it for you. Getting out of cleaning, doing a lot of things. Those are what save you in the end.
Yeah, and I mean, you do end up getting pretty sick in BMT because you're around so many people and different germs. So at a certain point, like everyone started needing them even more. So you could start slinging them for more and more, high value things because people started to get desperate. And I had like 6 bags of them because she would hook it up every week with bags that her mom would send her. But it added an interesting little side task to do while you're bored in the dorms doing nothing. But through all that, like we eventually get to graduate from BMT, which is like the one thing you look forward to the entire time you're there because you finally get to leave this place and not get screamed at every 5 seconds.
Yeah. Graduation was cool. If you're ever interested in joining the Air Force, there's a lot of different things you can do to just be more involved and get more, let's say, points towards graduation. I was a flight guide for my flight, so I got to march my flight for my graduation. So I was in front leading them, and that was really exciting because I wasn't hidden in the back because with the way that they integrate flights, you go based off height. So all the taller people are in the 4th element. We also go by elements.
The 4th element would be like if you're like looking at a sidewalk, it would be the line closest to where you're standing, and then it just gets shorter the further out it gets from you.
Yeah, so me being 5'6", I was always in the middle somewhere. And so with me doing a flight guide, I was able to march my flight. So I was in front of the 4th element, which is really cool. I also had to fight for Sean to go to my graduation because there's a lot of, even though we're only 10 minutes across base from each other, there's zero communication between Disneyland and Alcatraz.
So like we both had this like we know we're in the same place, and like I know exactly what she's doing and she knows exactly what I'm doing, but it's like we can't talk to each other. So being able to go to her graduation was a pretty big thing because I got to get out of my training for however many hours I got to go, and it was fun. Like she was surprised when she saw me pull up because I mean she can talk about how challenging it was to get me to be there.
You got to bring a friend. Well, I had to go through, I asked my MTIs every day for the last 3 weeks if I can get my husband to go to my graduation, which they were in contact with his MTIs and they were waiting on his squadron to respond, and they were taking forever. So literally the morning of, I asked my MTI if my husband was able to attend my graduation because A-Fly and Guidon got to go to practice our graduation lineup an hour before everybody else showed up with our MTIs. And I asked him, and he was like, oh, unfortunately, your husband's squadron never responded, so he's not going to be here. And so that sucked. I was, like, looking forward to that so much. Well, on top of seeing my family, I was super excited. But I was like, okay, like, I guess I'm just going to have to wait to see him another time, maybe, once we're operational Air Force. Because I had no idea at the time that our tech schools were going to be within each other's circle, so we were going to get to hang out. But that was kind of sad. I was like, oh no, I'm going to leave and I'm not going to be able to see you before I left.
Yeah, it was nice people to go to the graduation. It was the first time I really like seen her in, at that point, I don't even know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so. So it was nice, and also like gave me a heads up on what graduation is going to be like, which doesn't look like it's like very tough, but you practice every single day for it. So there's a lot that goes into it because every movement has to be perfect, and you stand in a specific spot and you move a certain way, and you're going to like this like beat of like a drum pretty much, and all your steps are to this like beat and it's just, there's a lot that goes into it. So it did help in the long run being able to watch hers, because when I had to go do my practice for graduation, like I already knew like what it was supposed to look like. So there was a lot of benefits to her leaving first, as you can tell.
I paved the whole way for you. I gave you all the cheat codes to how to be a good airman and make your life a little bit easier. Obviously, you got to experience your own things, and you being in Disneyland, it was a whole different thing. But at least you got a little bit of insight. At least you you can go back and like tell your friends like, oh yeah, like this is what we have to look forward to. This is something we need to like be aware of. Things like that. I think it helped a little bit with me going first, because I know that every single person that knew that I was married always asked me like, why didn't you and your husband come together? Like, why don't you guys come at the same time?
And I mean, not to like name names, there was people in my flight that were married, and you're not supposed to be in the same flight or be able to like be with each other, but they didn't tell anyone they were married and just happened to get put in the same flight. So it kind of worked out perfect for them. But if we would have tried that, it probably wouldn't have worked out, and our experience probably would have been way different. And I think it was good for us to both like experience it
differently,
separately and differently, and have different perspectives on what it was like, especially being from the two different buildings. And a lot of stuff changed when I went as compared to when she went. So it was good to be able to go separate and have separate experiences. But yeah, that was our BMT experiences. We'll talk more about our beginning parts of our military journey in the next episode, tech school, and so on. But if you guys have any questions or want to ask us anything about what BMT was like, you have two different perspectives, a male and a female perspective, and two different buildings, and we just both have two totally different experiences in BMT.
And then if anyone wants like more info on PT test, what that looked like, what a general breakdown of each week looked like, more specific details, food, what that was like, we have all of those details. If anyone's interested, let us know.
Yeah, thank you for joining us for our very first sip session, and we hope to sip with you guys again. Thank you.